What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Here we are with another reaction, and in this one we have the Westminster Abbey tour, the hidden beauty inside the medieval cathedral. I'm so excited to jump into this because these cathedrals I think are absolutely stunning that I've gotten to see. It just shows you like how beautiful history can be, and I absolutely love that. Before we go into this tour, if you would like to support the channel by becoming a member, that join button is waiting for you to click it. And once you do, you receive exclusive benefits. So don't wait any longer. And we're not going to wait any longer. Let's dive in.
Hi everyone, welcome back. What a glorious sight we have right behind me here, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Parliament Square. A very busy, beautiful day in Parliament Square. But today, my biggest challenge to date, I am tackling the most important medieval church in the country, quite possibly the most recognized church in the world. A site of Christian worship on the site for...
I didn't know that it was possibly the most recognized church in the world and the most important church in the country. This is really cool.
1,000 years. Ladies and gentlemen, today we're discussing the Collegiate Church of St. Peter in the West. Today I'm tackling Westminster Abbey. This is going to be a tough one, ladies and gents. I do hope I do it enough justice. There is centuries and centuries of history coming up in one immediate area. Every king and queen in British history, with the exception of only two, have all been crowned inside in Westminster Abbey, including Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II in 1953. Of the
R.I.P. to the late great
39 monarchs that have been crowned in here, 16 are buried inside here. But not only that, architects, poets, writers, authors, scientists, Newton, Purcell, Darwin, Dickens, Chaucer, Hardy, Pitt the Elder, Pitt the Younger, Browning, Tennyson, all buried inside the walls in Westminster Abbey.
Are you serious?
For hopefully what's going to be a memorable tour. I've been waiting a long time to tackle this one. Oh my God, I hope I do it justice. So the history of the Abbey, ladies and gentlemen, is quite complex. So I'm going to try and break it down and simplify it for you. But nobody actually knows when it was
Look how beautiful that is
built on this site. But what we do know is this area was known as Corny Island. Surrounded by tributaries of the River Thames, it was an inhabitable, swampy place. Now, the first theory we have, or legend, suggests that King Sigebert founded the Abbey, King of the East Saxons, here in AD 604. Then later on, the Bishop of London, Bishop Dunstan, he brought 12 Benedictine monks here from Glastonbury to found a monastery in 960. Now, those Benedictine monks formed the first abbey. 100 years later, King Edward the Confessor. Now, he was a pious man and he led a particularly holy life. He is said to have founded the church on this site, and that from then on, we are certain of its history. He was born in 1005 and he was driven from England by the Danes. Now, whilst he was in exile in Normandy, Edward vowed that if his kingdom was ever restored to him, he would make a pilgrimage to Rome. When he did reclaim the throne in 1042, there was so much unrest in the kingdom, he was advised not to make this pilgrimage. But the Pope absolved him of his vow, provided he erected a church and dedicated it to St. Peter of Rome. So that is exactly what he did. And this church, Edward's Abbey, was first consecrated on the 28th of December, 1065. But the king himself was too ill to attend, and he died a few days later, and he was buried before the high altar. Actually, his funeral is depicted in the stunning Bayeux tapestry. And in that tapestry, you can also get an idea of what the abbey would have looked like, the Abbey of St. Edward the Confessor. So after his death, St. Edward the Confessor's life of piety was rewarded. He was made a saint in 1161.
Deservedly so.
Miracles were said to have occurred in his tomb as his reputation as a holy man grew. And King Henry III held St. Edward the Confessor in such high regard, he set about building a new shrine for him on the existing site in the form of a new glorious church, ladies and gents, in the Gothic style, with slender pointed arches, and larger window work. Larger windows, actually, the stunning windows we'll see inside, the stained glass windows. And we'll see these pointed arches and these flying buttresses when we head inside very shortly. So work started on that church in 1245, and it is very much the framework of the church you see today. So in 1376,
That's so cool.
the foundation stone was laid for a new nave. And over the next 140 years, with the help of Richard II, the nave was completed. By 1503, Henry III's Lady Chapel was pulled down. And
I just want to say this is amazing. Shout out St. Edward, man. This is an absolute incredible, I guess, what was it, a tribute to St. Peter? Or he made it in the name of St. Peter. But man, like, look, just the design, everything about the Westminster. And I'm just looking at the outside. She ain't even took us to the inside yet. But it's just absolutely gorgeous. Like, it's truly, truly a sight to behold.
the new Lady Chapel was begun by Henry VII. And that's where we're headed right now, to show you the outer side of Henry VII's Lady Chapel, named after Our Lady, of course. Now, just as we're passing here as well, though, you will see St. Margaret's Church.
Gorgeous.
Another part that you can visit
Freaking
when you
gorgeous.
come to London. And that one is actually free of charge. Winston Churchill married here. Samuel Pepys married here. And Sir Walter Raleigh is buried inside in this building.
Dang.
As is William Paxton, who brought the printing press to the UK. So this is the Henry VII Lady Chapel. This is a masterpiece inside, ladies and gents. So you'll see the different building and construction as we head inside. There's Gothic, English Gothic, French Renaissance, and influences of all these different styles of architecture inside the building. So here's another part of the building right at the back.
Oh my god.
It's also known as the Collegiate Church of St. Peter in Westminster.
The architecture is sensational.
Right now.
This is incredible.
When Henry VIII couldn't secure a divorce from the Pope, he disestablished the Catholic Church. And he made himself supreme head of the Church of England. And in 1540, he dissolved the monasteries and seized their assets.
Oh my
Westminster
god.
Abbey fared better during that era, however, because of its royal connections, and it survived being pillaged and was refounded as a cathedral with a bishop and a dean. But again, this wasn't to last, because once his daughter, Queen Mary I, succeeded, she was a devout Catholic, and she reinstated the abbey, converted the abbey back into a monastery, and the monks were returned. However, again, this wouldn't last because her sister Elizabeth I, she changed the rules yet again.
Of course.
When she ascended the throne just 5 years later in 1558, she again reversed Mary's changes and she refounded the abbey again, but this time as the Collegiate Church of St. Peter in Westminster, once more with a dean and chapter. The difference here, however, the dean was only answerable to the sovereign, answerable to nobody else but the sovereign. This allegiance solely to the sovereign still exists to this day. In fact, it's known as a royal peculiar. There's only two known royal peculiars in the UK, and that is St. George's Chapel, which we covered on our Windsor tour, ladies and gents, and Westminster Abbey here. But just to give you a brief idea.
Bro, the architecture in the UK is off of the charts. It is so insane to know that these buildings were built so long ago. Like, the design, everything about them is truly, truly something to behold. Buildings just don't get built like this no more. And I'm not saying that we're not capable. I feel like, of course, we're capable. Just build buildings differently now. But, man, this is history. This is art. This is greatness. Like, you look at this stuff and and you feel something stirring inside of you. It's sensational, and I love getting to learn the history behind it all.
Of some of the monarchs that are in here. Mary, Queen of Scots, Queen Elizabeth I, Queen Anne, Charles II, Henry III is buried in here, Edward I, Richard II, Henry V, Henry VII is here, Mary II, and William III. They were the joint monarchs. But just have a look here at this incredible, the towers. So, they're the next major milestone architecturally in the Abbey was 1745. Now in 1995, a major restoration took place of the Abbey, of the exterior stonework of the Abbey, and was completed, and new statues were added to the west front, including 10 of 20th century martyrs.
Whoa.
Also the newest addition are the Diamond Jubilee galleries on top of the Abbey, and we're going to be heading up there today, where you can now access the very roof up on top, and the view we're going to see is quite possibly my favorite view inside.
Dang.
So without further ado, that's a brief rundown of the history. We'll be speaking a little bit more about it. Let's head inside, ladies and gents.
Oh, that is insane.
Transept, and in this section it contains several large statues of 18th and 19th century prime ministers, including Viscount Palmerston, Robert Peel, Benjamin Disraeli, and William Gladstone. This vibrant stained glass window by David Hockney celebrates the long reign of Queen Elizabeth II. This area is known as the Statesman's Aisle, and everywhere we look, we are reminded of the inextricable link between church and state in Britain. The next section of the Abbey commemorates musicians. Known as the Musicians' Aisle, it commemorates some of Britain's most celebrated musicians, including John Blow, Orlando Gibbons, Edward Elgar, Adrian Cedric Bolt, Benjamin Britten, and William Walton. Coming up on the left-hand side, this stunning marble monument commemorates Lord Kingsale, who is buried here along his wife Anne, and seated beside him, William Wilberforce, a timeless campaigner for the abolition of slavery and a key campaigner for the anti-slave movement.
Shout out to my boy William Wilberforce. Anytime I hear that name, I got to show respect. I got to give thanks, you feel me? Because like she said, my boy was a key movement in the anti-slavery movement, in the Crusades against slavery. It was he was absolutely key, absolutely important. So I gotta give props.
Just as poets and scientists are gathered in the Abbey, so too are musicians. It's in this section Henry Purcell is buried, a gifted musician who was organist in the Abbey from 1679 to 1695. He wrote music for many state occasions, including the coronations of James II and William and Mary. Continuing on, it's hard not to be overwhelmed by the soaring height of the vaulting. At 102 feet, it is the highest in Britain. The Abbey's architecture is some of the finest architecture in the world. A World Heritage Site, the Abbey is one of the most outstanding collections of sculptures anywhere in Northern Europe. We are approaching the Tomb of the Unknown Warrior, but before we do, we are reminded that there is history at every corner. Two tombs we are approaching are that of John Hunter, a distinguished scientist and surgeon of his day, a teacher and collaborator with Edward Jenner, pioneer of smallpox vaccine. And beside him, Robert Stevenson, who some regarded as the greatest engineer of the 19th century.
Dang.
And shortly we will see a plaque commemorating David Lloyd George, one of many prime ministers commemorated in the Abbey. And don't forget to take in the stunning sight of the stained glass windows in the Abbey. The one we are looking at now was erected in memory of the Royal Army Medical Corps of all ranks who gave their lives in service for their country in the First and Second World Wars.
Always give thanks to those who are willing to sacrifice for fighting for their country, no matter if they're fighting for my country or fighting for another country in the world. You just always got to show respect to those willing to make the ultimate sacrifice for their country.
Our next stop will be the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier. The most famous grave in the Abbey has come to symbolise the dead of not just the First World War, but of all wars. Every official visit by a foreign head of state starts with the laying of a wreath at the grave, and each year on Remembrance Sunday, it is the focus for the Abbey's act of remembrance.
I love that.
And this is where we take our long walk up the nave towards the high altar. The exact same walk the Duchess of Cambridge
Look how gorgeous this
had
is.
on her wedding day.
Everything about this building is just truly, truly beautiful. Everything designed in here is truly gorgeous. There's so much tradition. There's so much history within these walls. There's so much important historical figures within these walls, man. This is truly, truly one of the most special places I've got the chance to react to. And I just find that absolutely fascinating. Look at this. Look at this. My days.
The exact same walk the Duchess of Cambridge had on her wedding day on the 29th of April 2011, where she met Prince William at the high altar. Finally completed in 1517, it's incredible to think that buried beneath my feet are Charles Darwin, David Livingstone, Clement Attlee, Sir Charles Barry, and Professor Stephen Hawking.
Crazy.
The choir screen we are approaching, to the left is the monument to Sir Isaac Newton by J.M. Reisbach, and to the right is James Earl Stanhope. And from here we enter into the stunning choir. When the Abbey was a monastery, monks came to pray here 7 times a day. The seats are known as stalls and are not original, but they still serve the same purpose. The choir you see today was designed by Edward Bloor and date to 1848, replacing Henry Keene's 18th century stalls, which had replaced the medieval ones. The Abbey's clergy and choir worship here daily, and some of the stalls have plaques showing who sits at them on special occasions, including the Sovereign Stall, High Commission stalls from 4 dominions of Canada, Australia, New Zealand and South Africa. The Westminster Schoolboys Choir sings services here 8 times a week.
Dang.
We are now approaching the sacrarium and high altar, where the ceremony of coronation takes place before the high altar and is performed by the Archbishop of Canterbury. The first documented coronation was William the Conqueror on Christmas Day 1066. 32 kings and queens have been crowned here ever since, every monarch with the exception of Edward V
kings
and
and
Edward
queens.
VIII, neither of whom were ever crowned.
Wow.
The coronation chair is placed here in the centre of the high altar. Made in 1297 on the orders of Edward I to house the Stone of Scone, which the king had captured in Scotland. Every crowned sovereign since Henry IV and possibly even Edward II has been crowned and anointed sitting in this chair, with the exception of Roman Catholic Queen Mary, and at the joint coronation of King William III and Queen Mary II in 1889, a special chair was made for Mary as William used this particular one. The present altar and screen were erected between 1867 and 1873 after a George Gilbert Scott design, and on one of the Abbey's most precious possessions, a medieval pavement designed and laid in 1268. The cosmetic pavement consists of 80,000 pieces of porphyry, glass and onyx set into Purbeck marble. One final look at the choir, which has been the worshipping part of the Abbey since medieval times, and next to the North Ambulatory, where we see the tiny chapel of Our Lady of the Pew, with its modern alabaster carving of the Virgin and Child, sculpted by Sister Concordia Scott and placed in the Abbey in May 1971. Next on our right, we'll see the tomb of King Henry III, who died in 1272. Henry's devotion to St. Edward the Confessor led him to choose burial close to St. Edward the Confessor's shrine.
I think it's so cool how like all those kings and queens were like crowned in that same chair. It's just really dope. This church definitely is the most historical cathedral that I've gotten the chance to lay eyes on. I've got to react to lots of like, I guess, towns and cities where they'll show cathedrals throughout, but I never got to like react to a video touring one. And the first video I react to touring a cathedral is possibly the most important church in the world, or the most recognized church in the world, which is truly sensational. So many great minds, so much royalty, all buried within this building. It's fantastic, and then the tradition, the ceremony, just everything about this, it's dope.
Next to St. Paul's Chapel, relics were kept here during the Middle Ages, including the cloth in which it was alleged St. Paul's head was wrapped after execution. The decorative ornate screen on the right and the vivid colours are a reminder of how the abbey was coloured and gilded in medieval times. As we enter through, the monument in the centre is of Giles, 1st Baron of Daubeny, and his wife Elizabeth, who was Lord Chamberlain to Henry VII. And here lies Sir John Pickering, Lord Keeper of the Great Seal and Speaker of the House of Commons, alongside his wife. In front are statues of their children, two of whom hold skulls, symbols of mortality.
That's insane.
Next is Sir James Fullerton, buried alongside his wife, a courtier who lies on a black chest decorated with shields of arms.
Wow.
Sir Thomas Bromley, Lord Chancellor and Keeper of the Great Seal. The figure depicted in white marble is Dudley Carleton, Viscount Dorchester. This colourful effigy is Frances Sidney, Countess of Sussex. She is depicted here in her robes with a coronet, and a porcupine painted blue and gold rests at her feet. This represents her family's crest. The striking black and gold tomb is that of Sir Francis Cottington and his wife Anne. She predeceased Francis by 18 years, and although he died a royalist exile, his body was brought back to be reinterred with his wife in 1678. Behind the iron bars rests Giles Daubeny and his wife Elizabeth. Exit through this decorative ornate screen with stone tomb chest and vaulted canopy. This stunning monument is dedicated to Sir Louis de Robespierre, Baron Bourgier. Our next stop is the shared tomb of Queen Elizabeth I and Mary I. Elizabeth died in 1603. She was buried here under the instruction of James I. Mary I, who ruled immediately before her, died in 1558. Although the half-sisters were divided in life by their religious beliefs, the Protestant Queen Elizabeth and the Catholic Mary I lay here together for eternity. The tomb of Elizabeth I with the grave of Mary I is a large marble monument by Maximilian Colt, assisted by John de Cretz in 1606. Also at the base of the tomb is an inscription that reads, "Near the tomb of Mary and Elizabeth, remember before God all those who divided at the Reformation by different convictions laid down their lives for Christ and conscience' sake." At the east end of the abbey is one of the most magnificent architectural achievements of the Tudor age, the Chapel of Henry VII, the Lady Chapel, dedicated to the Blessed Virgin. Here we get a spectacular view of the superb fan vaulting constructed between 1503 and 1509. Here we also see the choir stalls of the chapel, and above them the heraldic banners of the Knights of the Order of the Bath, a knighthood whose title derives from the ritual washing and vigil of prayer that medieval knights undertook before their investiture. The altar you see here was given to the...
That room was insane. The design on the ceiling. I said we can build buildings like that still, but can we? Can we do something that incredible? Everything here, man. It leaves you speechless. I would love to get the opportunity to just kind of tour this one day and kind of see all these things in person and like see what I'm feeling in person when I see them. That would be an experience. That would be a memory that I could never forget. This is truly beautiful. Getting a chance to react to it is incredible, but man, I'm sure it pales in comparison to just being able to be there in person.
Abbey in 1935, based on the Renaissance design of the original, which was destroyed in 1644. Behind this is the tomb of Henry VII and Elizabeth of York, from where the chapel gets its name. Henry left specific details in his will for the construction of this tomb at a cost of £1,500. Continuing on, we see the bronze effigy of George Villiers, Duke of Buckingham, a favourite courtier of James I, and some would suspect his lover. And here is the Queen's organ, a 13-stop organ commissioned in honour of the 60th anniversary of the Queen's coronation, installed permanently in the Lady Chapel in 2013. And this, ladies and gents, is the Royal Air Force Memorial Chapel, dedicated in 1947. Oliver Cromwell, who was responsible for executing King Charles I of England in 1649, was temporarily buried here, but his remains were removed during the restoration of the monarchy in 1660. This remarkable stained glass window is a memorial to those who died in the Battle of Britain in 1940.
Shout out to the RAF, man. Everyone who sacrificed their life will be remembered. You guys, against all odds, pulled off the impossible. You guys handed Hitler that first defeat, which led to other defeats, which led to the downfall of Hitler and the Nazis, which was such an incredible thing. But they thought they could come onto the island and destroy you guys because the odds, the numbers just weren't in your favor at all. But man, not just the RAF, but every single person in Britain fought so hard in World War II to stop Hitler and those Nazis. You can't help but show the utmost respect and praise for those. But the RAF, against all those German fighters, you guys, I said it earlier, you guys did the impossible. You guys did the absolute impossible.
This monument commemorates Arthur Penrhyn Stanley, a former Dean of Westminster from 1863 to 1881, a leading theologian of his day and a major figure in 19th century history in the Abbey. Stanley's gravestone in the front of the monument also commemorates his wife, Lady Augusta, a former lady-in-waiting to Queen Victoria. And this is the Chapel of St. Edward the Confessor, is the spiritual heart of the Abbey. This chapel was built by Henry III, and in the centre lies the body of St. Edward the Confessor. Surrounding him are 5 kings and 4 queens. Those are Henry III, Edward I and his Queen Eleanor of Castile, Edward III and his consort Philippa of Hainault, their grandson Richard II with his Queen Anne of Bohemia, and King Henry V. Next, I'm taking you to the stunning Poets' Corner. And this area commemorates literary giants that have laid to rest here, but also this wall and floor with numerous memorial plaques and statues placed here to honor distinguished poets and writers. This very wall alone we see in the centre William Shakespeare, surrounded by memorials to Keats, Shelley, Johnson, Robbie Burns, just to name a few. Shortly, we'll be seeing several floor memorials, but also this memorial in the centre is to the poets in the First World War. 16 names, of which were famous poets, but possibly the most famous on there is Wilfred Owen. the most famous poet of the First World War. It's not only poets commemorated here, famous writers commemorated here also include Sir Walter Scott, Charlotte, Emily and Anne Bronte, Jane Austen, Henry James, Sir John Betjeman and Alfred Lord Tennyson. And not only are literary giants laid to rest here, so too are actors around the monument to William Shakespeare, including David Garrick, Henry Irving, and in more recent times, Laurence Olivier. Those that have memorials here that are buried elsewhere include also John Milton, William Wordsworth, William Blake, and Gerard Manley Hopkins.
No.
And now we move on to the newly constructed Jubilee Galleries. They are the largest structure to be added to the Abbey since the West Towers were completed nearly 250 years ago. Located in the East Triforium, it houses 300 of the Abbey's treasures and are newly open to the public.
300?
These are arranged under 4 themes: how the Abbey was founded, how the buildings on the site have developed, the Abbey's worship and daily life, and the close connection between the Abbey and the monarchy, and the Abbey's role in memorializing famous men and women. But without a doubt, the spectacular highlight for me of the newly opened Jubilee Galleries is this impressive view of the entire length of the Abbey. The stunning view is afforded to you for an extra price of £5 to enter into the newly opened Jubilee Galleries.
Oh,
and onto
my
a stunning
God.
portrait of Her Majesty the Queen.
I love that.
The only official portrait painted for the Queen's Diamond Jubilee celebration. This work was created by Australian artist Ralph Hymans.
Wow.
Although Hymans sat with the Queen during the creation of the painting, the event depicted is an imaged one. In it, Her Majesty is seen standing and reflecting on the exact spot where, 60 years previously, she was crowned. And here we have the replica of the coronation chair made by Queen Mary II for her joint coronation with her husband William III in 1899. One final look here.
Man.
And as we exit the Abbey, ladies and gents, to the left here is Westminster School. This is where the choristers of the Queen attend school and one of the most prestigious public schools in the country.
Dang.
The treasures of the Abbey, ladies and gents, include Chapter House, the Pyx Chamber, and the stunning nave and cloisters. I hope you've enjoyed this visit today, ladies and gents. This is Sinead signing out here with Free Tours by Foot London. Thanks for joining me.
That tour was truly, truly something to behold. Every room, so much history, so much great people. It leaves you speechless. I would love to get up there and get to see that view and that picture of the Queen, that portrait at the end. That was perfect. Everything about that building is perfect. Yeah, I would never change a thing. I hope that stays up as long as humanity survives. That's all we have. If you enjoyed that, please don't forget to subscribe, give a video a thumbs up, and check out the next video. I'll see you guys next time.